The throne room stretched out like a cathedral made of stars. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds filled the vast space, their bodies reflecting every color and shape imaginable. Some floated in the air, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline vessels. They had all come for one reason. Queen Varys had called them. Jiho sat in the section reserved for Earth's delegation, his simple black suit making him look small among the elaborate robes and armor worn by others. He had been a diplomat for 12 years, visiting more alien worlds than he could count, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The Queen of the Andali Empire, the most powerful being in the known galaxy, stood before them all. She was tall, perhaps 8 feet, with pale silver skin that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were the deep violet of nebulae, ancient and knowing. She wore armor that looked like liquid metal, flowing across her body in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. When she spoke, her voice filled the room without shouting, resonating in a way that made Jiho's chest vibrate. "I have ruled alone for 3,000 years, Queen Varys said. Her words were translated instantly into every language by the devices everyone wore. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have ended wars and started new ages. But today, I make a different choice. I seek a mate." The room exploded into whispers. Jiho heard the translator struggling to keep up with hundreds of conversations happening at once. Next to him, Ambassador Minho grabbed his arm. "Did she just say what I think she said?" Minho whispered. Jiho nodded, unable to look away from the queen. There was something in her eyes, something he recognized even across the vast distance between them. Loneliness. He knew that feeling well. Queen Varys raised one hand and silence fell instantly. The Andali bonding ritual requires 2 trials. First, a psychic merge where my mate must join minds with me completely. Every thought, every memory, every fear will be shared. Second, a combat trial where they must face me and survive for 10 minutes. These trials have existed for as long as my people have lived. They ensure that only the strongest, the most worthy, can stand beside an Andali queen. She paused, scanning the crowd. "I ask now, who among you will volunteer?" Nobody moved. The silence stretched out like elastic pulled too tight. Jiho watched as the massive Gorothi warriors, each one capable of lifting a ground transport, stayed firmly in their seats. The Vallani, beings made of living crystal with minds that could calculate faster than computers, remained perfectly still. Even the synthetics, artificial beings who claimed to feel no fear, did not rise. Minutes passed. The queen's expression shifted slightly, and Jiho saw it again, that flash of loneliness, quickly hidden behind her royal mask. She had expected this, he realized. She had known they would be too afraid. Something twisted in Jiho's chest. He thought about the reports he had read about Queen Varys. She had saved more lives than any other ruler in history. She had created peace treaties that lasted centuries. She had personally fought off an invasion force to protect a colony of refugees she had never met. And yet, she stood there alone, with no one brave enough to even try. His body moved before his mind caught up. Jiho stood, the movement causing heads to turn throughout the room. He felt Minho's hand grab at his jacket, heard the sharp intake of breath from the other Earth delegates. But he was already walking, his feet carrying him down the steps toward the center of the chamber. The whispers started again, louder this time. He heard words in languages he did not speak, but the translator fed him pieces. Human? Madness. They are so young. He will die. Jiho reached the open space before the throne and stopped. He looked up at Queen Varys, meeting those violet eyes, and bowed in the way she had taught himself, right hand over heart, left hand extended palm up. The traditional Andali greeting, showing respect and openness. "Your Majesty," Jiho said, keeping his voice steady. "I volunteer." The queen stared at him. Up close, she was even more intimidating, her power radiating from her like heat from a star. But Jiho did not look away. He had faced death before, had survived things that should have killed him. Fear was an old friend. "You are human," Queen Varys said. It was not a question. But Jiho answered anyway. "Yes, Your Majesty. Your species has been part of the Galactic Council for only 200 years. You have no natural psychic abilities. Your physical strength is limited." She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle. "Why would you volunteer when beings far more powerful than you have remained seated?" Jiho thought about lying, about giving some diplomatic answer, about honor or duty. But something told him the Queen would know. She saw through everyone. So he told the truth. "Because you looked lonely," he said simply. "And I know what that feels like." The room went completely silent. Even the whispers stopped. Queen Varys's eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion Jiho had seen from her. "You understand," she said softly, "that the trials may kill you? The psychic merge has destroyed the minds of beings far older and stronger than humans. The combat trial has left warriors broken and burned. Even if you survive both, you would be bound to me for as long as you live, unable to return to your old life." "I understand," Jiho said. "Then why?" the Queen asked. The question was almost a whisper, meant only for him despite the thousands watching. Jiho smiled. A small, sad smile. "Because someone has to try. And because humans, we don't give up, even when we should. It's what makes us human." Queen Varys was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded once, decisive and final. "Very well, Ambassador Jiho of Earth. In 3 days, you will face the first trial. Prepare yourself as best you can." She paused, then added something that made his heart beat faster. "And thank you for your courage." As Jiho walked back to his seat, he heard the chaos erupting around him. But all he could think about was those violet eyes, and the small, almost invisible smile the Queen had given him when no one else was looking. He had 3 days to prepare for the impossible, time to make them count. The 3 days passed too quickly. Jiho spent them preparing in the only way he knew how. Researching, training his mind through meditation, and refusing to think about failure. On the morning of the trial, a tall Andali woman came to his quarters. She introduced herself as Lady Nari, the Queen's chief advisor and oldest friend. "Walk with me," Nari said. It was not a request. They moved through corridors made of stone that seemed to breathe with ancient power. Nari said nothing until they reached a balcony overlooking the city below. Thousands of spires reached toward the sky, each one housing millions of citizens from across the empire. "Do you know why I am here?" Nari asked, her voice careful and measured. "To warn me," Jiho said. Nari nodded. 17 beings have attempted the psychic merge with Queen Varys over the centuries. All 17 lost their minds. Some died instantly, others lived on as empty shells, their consciousness shattered beyond repair. The Queen carries that guilt with her every day. "She thinks I will die too," Jiho said quietly. "No." Nari turned to look at him, her silver eyes intense. "She thinks you will survive. That is what terrifies her. She has not allowed herself to hope in a very long time. If you fail, if you die, it will break something in her that may never heal. So I must ask you, are you certain? Truly certain? Truly certain?" Jiho thought about his sister, dead for 10 years now, in a pirate raid on their colony. He thought about the months he spent alone in a damaged ship, waiting for rescue that almost never came. He thought about every time he had wanted to give up and somehow found the strength to keep going. "I am certain," he said. "Humans are good at surviving things that should kill us. It's kind of our specialty." Nari studied him for another moment, then nodded slowly. "Then may your ancestors watch over you, Ambassador. The trial begins in 1 hour." The psychic chamber was small and round, its walls covered in symbols that glowed with soft blue light. In the center sat 2 chairs facing each other. Queen Varys was already there, dressed in simple white robes instead of her armor. She looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. "Are you ready?" she asked as Jiho entered. "No," Jiho said honestly. but I am here anyway. The queen almost smiled. Honesty. That is good. Sit. Jiho sat in the chair across from her. The door sealed behind him with a sound like thunder. They were alone now, cut off from the outside world. Queen Varys reached out her hands, palms up, and Jiho placed his hands in hers. Her skin was warm, warmer than he expected. Once we begin, Queen Varys said, there is no stopping until it is finished. You will feel my mind entering yours. It will be overwhelming. Most beings try to resist, to protect themselves. That is what destroys them. Do you understand? Do not fight it, Jiho said. Let it flow. Exactly. The queen took a deep breath. Jiho, if this goes wrong, if I hurt you, know that it will not go wrong, Jiho interrupted gently. Trust me like I am trusting you. Queen Varys looked surprised, then grateful. She closed her eyes. Then let us begin. The world exploded into light and sensation. Jiho felt the queen's mind crash into his like a wave hitting a beach. Powerful and unstoppable. His first instinct was to panic, to throw up walls and protect himself. But he remembered Nari's warning. Resisting would destroy him, so instead, Jiho relaxed. He let the wave wash over him, through him, accepting it rather than fighting it. And something remarkable happened. His mind began to adapt. Where other species had rigid mental structures, fixed pathways, and firm boundaries, human consciousness was different. Humans had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them constantly. They had learned to adapt to anything. Climate changes, diseases, predators, disasters. Their brains were built for flexibility, for reorganizing and rebuilding on the fly. As Queen Varys's power flooded through him, Jiho's mind simply adjusted. Parts of his consciousness moved aside to make room. New pathways formed instantly. It hurt. Stars above it hurt, like his brain was being stretched and reshaped, but it did not break. And then he was inside her mind too. He saw 3,000 years of memories in an instant. Battles fought across 100 worlds. The weight of decisions that meant life or death for billions. The loneliness of immortality, watching everyone she cared about grow old and die while she remained unchanged. He felt her guilt over the 17 who had tried and failed this trial. He felt her fear that she would be alone forever, but he also saw her kindness. The refugee children she had personally carried to safety. The peace treaties she had worked on for decades. The garden she kept where she grew flowers from extinct worlds, preserving their memory. She was not just powerful, she was caring, deeply and painfully caring, and that caring had cost her so much. Jiho did not flinch from any of it. He let her see his memories too. His sister's death. The guilt he carried for not being there. The long months in the damaged ship. Talking to himself to stay sane. His first diplomatic mission where everything went wrong. His failures and fears, and the quiet determination to keep going despite them all. And slowly, carefully, he sent her a feeling more than words. I understand. You are not alone anymore. The queen's presence in his mind shifted. The overwhelming pressure eased slightly. Not because she was holding back, but because she was no longer trying to test him. She was simply being present with him, mind to mind, equal to equal. Time lost meaning. They existed together in that shared space. Two consciousness intertwined. Jiho learned Andali words that had no translation. Queen Varys saw human concepts she had never imagined. They shared pain and hope and the strange comfort of finally being truly understood. Then, gradually, the connection began to fade. The queen's mind withdrew gently, carefully, leaving Jiho's consciousness intact. The chamber came back into focus. They were still sitting in their chairs, hands joined, but tears streamed down both their faces. You survived, Queen Varys whispered, her voice filled with wonder and disbelief. You actually survived. Jiho tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. His whole body trembled with exhaustion. He felt like he had run a marathon and fought a war and climbed a mountain all at once. But he was alive. His mind was whole. How? The queen asked. How did you do what no one else could? Quote. Jiho managed a weak smile. We are very stubborn, he said. We break and heal and break again. But we keep going. You cannot shatter something that refuses to stay broken. Queen Varys laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. She squeezed his hands gently. Rest now. You have earned it. But know this, Jiho of Earth, you have done something impossible today, and I will never forget it. As attendants helped Jiho from the chamber, he looked back once. Queen Varys still sat there, staring at her hands with an expression of hope on her face. Real hope. Maybe for the first time in centuries. One trial down. One more to go. 2 days after the psychic trial, Jiho stood in the combat arena, trying not to think about how many beings had died here over the centuries. The arena was enormous, carved from black stone that absorbed light. Pillars rose from the floor at random intervals, and the ground was scarred with blast marks and cracks from previous battles. Above, thousands of spectators filled floating platforms, their faces barely visible from so far away. Across from him, Queen Varys waited in full battle armor. The liquid metal covered her completely now, forming sharp edges and surfaces that gleamed like knives. She held no weapon, she did not need one. Her power was weapon enough. 10 minutes, Lady Nari announced from the judge's platform. Ambassador Jiho must remain conscious and alive for 10 minutes while facing Queen Varys at combat strength. The trial begins when the bell sounds. Jiho wore a powered exoskeleton that Earth's military had provided. It would enhance his strength and speed, protect him from some damage, but compared to the Queen's natural abilities, it was like bringing a knife to a gunfight. He was not supposed to win, he just had to survive. The bell rang, a deep tone that vibrated through the arena floor. Queen Varys moved. 1 second she was across the arena. The next she was in front of Jiho. Her fist aimed at his chest. He threw himself sideways, the exoskeleton's motors screaming as they boosted his speed. Her fist hit the ground where he had been standing, and the impact created a crater 3 feet deep. Jiho rolled, came up running, heading for the nearest pillar. The Queen's energy blast hit the ground behind him, close enough that he felt the heat through his suit. He dove behind the pillar as another blast shattered it to pieces, showering him with stone fragments. Keep moving. Never stay still. That was the plan. He ran, using the pillars for cover, changing direction constantly. The Queen pursued him easily, her speed far beyond anything human. But Jiho had studied her fighting style from the recordings of past battles. She was used to opponents who stood and fought, who met her power with their own power. She was not used to someone who just ran away. 2 minutes passed. Jiho's legs already burned with effort. The exoskeleton helped, but it could not remove fatigue completely. He could not keep this pace up for 8 more minutes. He needed a different strategy. When the Queen came at him again, Jiho did something unexpected. Instead of running away, he ran toward her, sliding under her strike and coming up behind her. For 1 moment, they were back to back. Then he was running again, leaving her surprised. He heard something that made his heart lift. The Queen was laughing. Clever, she called out. But cleverness only delays the inevitable. She increased her speed. Now Jiho was not just running but barely staying ahead. Energy blasts bracketed him on all sides. One clipped his shoulder, and pain exploded through his arm. The exoskeleton's damage alerts screamed in his ear. 4 minutes. Jiho's mind raced. He could not keep running. His body had limits. Limits the Queen did not have. He needed to change the game completely. He needed to do what humans did best. Adapt. He stopped running and turned to face her. Queen Varys stopped too, surprise evident even through her armor. You surrender? No, Jiho said, breathing hard. I changed tactics. The Queen tilted her head. Curious. Then she attacked with everything she had. Jiho did not try to run. Instead, he dropped to the ground, rolled, came up and used the exoskeleton's boost to leap sideways. Where other species would try to block her attacks or dodge at the last second, Jiho moved early, constantly, never where she expected. It was not graceful. It was desperate and messy. But it worked. The queen's attacks became more frequent, more powerful. She was getting frustrated, which made her slightly less precise. Jiho used every tiny opening, every fraction of a second she left him. 6 minutes. His exoskeleton's power was dropping fast. Several servos had burned out. His right leg felt like it was on fire. But he kept moving. "You cannot win this way," the queen said, unleashing a wave of psychic energy that made Jiho's vision blur. "You can only delay." "That is all I need," Jiho gasped. "Humans, we are very good at delaying." 7 minutes. The queen's frustration was clear now. She had fought gods and won. She had ended wars single-handedly. Yet this fragile human would not fall. She combined physical and psychic attacks, forcing Jiho to defend on multiple levels at once. The exoskeleton's left leg gave out completely. Jiho stumbled, caught himself on a broken pillar. The queen was on him instantly, her hand closing around his throat, lifting him off the ground. "It is over," she said, not cruelly but with certainty. 8 minutes. Jiho looked into her violet eyes and smiled through the pain. Not yet. He had one trick left. During the psychic merge, he had felt how the queen's mind worked, how she anticipated opponents. She expected resistance, expected him to fight against her grip, so he did the opposite. He went completely limp. Surprised, the queen's grip loosened slightly. Jiho twisted, the exoskeleton's remaining power flaring as he broke free and fell to the ground. He rolled away, came up on one knee, and realized he could not stand anymore. Both legs were failing. His left arm was useless. 9 minutes. The queen walked toward him slowly now. "You have impressed me, Jiho. You have survived longer than any being I have fought. But this is the end." "Not yet," Jiho repeated. He could not stand, so he crawled. Not away from her, but in a circle around her, using his right arm and one barely functioning leg. It was pathetic. It was humiliating. But he kept moving. The queen stared at him. "Why? Why do you not simply stay down?" Quote, "Because I promised," Jiho said through gritted teeth. "I promised to survive 10 minutes. And humans, we keep our promises." 9 minutes 30 seconds. The queen raised her hand, energy gathering for a final strike. Jiho braced himself, knowing this one would end it. The exoskeleton was dead weight now. He had nothing left but his determination. The energy blast came, combined with a psychic shockwave that should have ended everything. It hit him directly, and Jiho felt himself thrown across the arena. He hit the wall hard enough to crack the stone, then fell to the ground. Everything hurt. His vision was dark around the edges. The exoskeleton sparked and died completely. But through the haze of pain, Jiho heard Lady Nari counting down. 5, 4, 3. He could not move, could barely breathe. But he was conscious. He was alive. 2, 1. The bell rang. 10 minutes elapsed, Lady Nari announced, her voice filled with shock. "Ambassador Jiho passes the trial." The arena was silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into noise, cheers, gasps, arguments, disbelief. Jiho barely heard it. He was too busy trying to remember how to breathe properly. Footsteps approached. Through blurred vision, Jiho saw Queen Varys kneel beside him. She had removed her helmet, and her expression was complicated respect, surprise, and something softer. "Time's up, Your Majesty," Jiho managed to whisper. The queen laughed, that genuine sound he was learning to love. "Yes," she said gently. "Yes, it is." She placed one hand on his forehead, and Jiho felt warmth spreading through him. Healing. The pain eased slightly. Enough to think clearly again. You are either the bravest human I have ever met, the Queen said softly, or the most stubborn. Can it be both? Jiho asked. Yes, Queen Varys said, and smiled. I suppose it can. News of Jiho's success spread across the galaxy faster than light travel. Within hours, every major civilization knew that a human, a member of one of the youngest species in the Galactic Council, had passed Queen Varys's impossible trials. The reactions were immediate and chaotic. Ambassador Minho arrived at the Andali capital the next morning, leading a delegation from Earth. Jiho met him in a private chamber, his body still aching from the combat trial despite the Queen's healing. Minho took one look at him and pulled him into a careful hug. You insane, brilliant fool, Minho said quietly. Do you have any idea what you have done? Survived? Jiho offered with a weak smile. Minho laughed, but it was strained. That is the least of it. Sit down. We need to talk. They sat in chairs by a window overlooking the Andali capital. Minho pulled out a datapad and scrolled through reports with increasing tension visible on his face. The Gorathi Assembly is furious, Minho began. Their warriors are claiming insult and demanding a rematch. The Villani Collective has opened 3 new research institutes to study human psychology. The synthetics have recalculated their entire threat assessment of humanity. We have jumped up 17 levels in potential danger. Danger? Jiho frowned. I just passed a trial. You passed a trial that beings far more powerful than us failed, Minho said intensely. You made the galaxy realize that humans are not as weak as they thought. Some species see that as opportunity. Others see it as threat. He scrolled further. We have received 63 new trade proposals in the past day. 40 diplomatic requests. 12 defense alliance offers. And... He paused, his expression darkening. 8 assassination threats against you. Jiho felt his blood run cold. What? Some species do not want this bonding to happen, Minho explained. They fear what it means if Earth becomes closely tied to the Andali Empire. Others believe you somehow cheated or used forbidden technology. And some, he hesitated, some simply hate humans and see this as their chance to put us back in our place. The door opened and Lady Nari entered without knocking. Her expression was grim. I apologize for interrupting, she said, but Ambassador Jiho needs to hear this directly. 4 delegations have demanded audiences with Queen Varys. They are threatening economic sanctions, military action, and withdrawal from the Galactic Council if the bonding proceeds. Can they actually do that? Jiho asked. They can try, Nari said, but it would cost them dearly. Still, the pressure is real. The Queen is in emergency council meetings right now. She looked at Jiho with unexpected sympathy. This is the reality of bonding with the galaxy's most powerful ruler. Every decision becomes political. Every personal choice affects billions. After Nari left, Minho leaned forward, his voice low and serious. Jiho, you need to understand something. If you complete this bonding, everything changes. Not just for you, but for all of humanity. Earth will become one of the major powers in the galaxy overnight. We will have influence we never dreamed of. But we will also have enemies we are not prepared for. What are you saying? Jiho asked, though he already knew. I am saying you have an out, Minho said gently. You passed the trials. That is enough. You can return to Earth a hero. The Queen would understand. No one would blame you. Jiho looked out the window at the alien city below. Would you blame me? Minho was quiet for a long moment. No, he said finally. I would thank you for considering Earth's safety over your own desires. He paused. But I would also wonder what we lost by choosing fear over courage. That evening, Jiho walked through the royal gardens alone. The Queen had given him access to this private space. A rare honor. Flowers from 100 worlds grew here. Each one tended with care. Jiho found the Queen sitting beside a fountain, staring at water that glowed faintly blue. She did not look up as he approached. You have spoken with your people, she said. It was not a question. Yes, and they have told you about the threats, the political complications, The danger to your homeworld. Yes. Queen Varys finally looked at him, her violet eyes sad. I should have expected this. I am sorry, Jiho. I did not think about how my choice would affect your entire species. That was selfish of me. I want to do for one. Jiho sat beside her on the fountain's edge. What would you have done differently? I would not have called for a mate at all, the queen said quietly. I would have continued alone, as I have for 3,000 years. It is safer that way. Simpler, lonelier, Jiho added. The queen smiled sadly. Yes, much lonelier. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the fountain. Finally, Jiho spoke. During the psychic merge, I saw your memories, all of them, and I noticed something interesting. Do you know what you remember most clearly? The queen shook her head. Not the great battles or the important treaties, Jiho said. You remember the small moments. A child's laughter. A flower blooming. A conversation with a friend. The times when you were not alone. Even briefly, those are the memories that shine brightest in your mind. Queen Varys looked away, but not before he saw tears gathering in her eyes. What is your point? My point is that you are not meant to be alone, Jiho said gently. Yes, there are risks. Yes, it is complicated. But the alternative is continuing to exist without truly living. And I think you are tired of that. I am, the queen whispered. I am so tired of it. But I cannot ask you to sacrifice your safety, your people's future, for my loneliness. You are not asking, Jiho said. I am choosing. There is a difference. The queen turned to him sharply. Even knowing the danger? Even understanding what it will cost? Jiho met her gaze steadily. I spent 6 months alone in a damaged ship once, waiting for rescue. Every day I thought about giving up. But I kept going, because I hoped that somewhere, someone would care that I survived. When I saw you standing in that throne room, calling for someone, and knowing no one would answer, I saw myself, and I decided that if I could ease that loneliness even a little, it would be worth any cost. You are a fool, Queen Varys said, but her voice was tender. Probably, Jiho agreed. But I am your fool, if you will have me. The queen laughed, the sound breaking through her tears. She reached out and took his hand, squeezing gently. The bonding ceremony is in 3 days. You still have time to change your mind. I will not change my mind, Jiho said with certainty. How can you be so sure? Jiho smiled. Because I made a promise. And humans keep their promises. That night, Minho came to Jiho's quarters one last time. He did not try to change Jiho's mind. Instead, he simply hugged his friend and colleague. Earth is proud of you, Minho said. And we will face whatever comes together. That is what humanity does. Thank you, Jiho said quietly. Just promise me one thing, Minho said, pulling back to look at him seriously. Promise you will be happy. After everything you have survived, everything you have given up. Promise me, this choice brings you joy. Jiho thought about Queen Varys' smile, about the way she had held his hand in the garden, about the connection they had formed during the psychic merge. He thought about all the conversations they would have, all the years they would face together, all the loneliness they would keep at bay simply by existing in the same space. I promise, he said, and meant it with his whole heart. 3 days until the bonding, 3 days until everything changed. But for the first time in a very long time, Jiho felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The royal bonding chamber was filled with representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. The room itself was ancient, carved from single piece of white stone that seemed to glow from within. Symbols covered the walls, written in Old Andali, a language so old that only scholars could read it anymore. Jiho stood at the center, wearing traditional Andali bonding robes that Lady Nari had helped him put on that morning. Nervous? Nari had asked while adjusting his collar. Terrified, Jiho admitted. Nari smiled, a rare expression on her usually serious face. Good. That means you understand what this means. But Jiho? She had placed a hand on his shoulder. I have served Queen Varys for 800 years. I have never seen her as happy as she has been these past days. Whatever happens, you have already given her a gift beyond measure. Now, standing in the chamber with thousands of eyes on him, Jiho took a deep breath. The massive doors at the far end opened, and Queen Varys entered. She wore robes that matched his, pure white with silver threading that caught the light like starlight. Her silver hair was unbound, flowing down her back. Without her armor, without the symbols of her power, she looked almost vulnerable, but her violet eyes found his across the distance, and Jiho saw nothing but certainty there. She walked to him slowly, and when she reached him, she took both his hands in hers. "Are you ready?" she whispered, quiet enough that only he could hear. "Are you?" he whispered back. She smiled. "Yes. For the first time in 3,000 years, I am ready." The ceremony began. An elder priest spoke in Old Andalai, his voice echoing through the chamber. Jiho did not understand all the words, but he felt their weight, their significance. This ritual was older than human civilization, older than Earth's recorded history. When the time came, Queen Varys spoke her vows first, her voice clear and strong. The translator in Jiho's ear rendered her words. "I pledge my strength to protect you, my wisdom to guide you, my heart to cherish you, and my life to walk beside yours for as long as the stars burn." Then it was Jiho's turn. He had memorized the Andali words, practiced them until his accent was nearly perfect, but when he spoke, he added something in his own language, in Korean, so that his people would understand. "I pledge my courage to stand with you, my flexibility to grow with you, my stubbornness to never give up on you, and my humanity to remind you that even the most powerful being needs someone to come home to." The queen's eyes widened, then filled with tears. The priest raised his hands, and power filled the chamber. Jiho felt the psychic bond forming again. But this time, it was different. Not a trial, but a joining. Two minds becoming permanently connected, able to sense each other's emotions, thoughts, presence, across any distance. It felt like coming home. Light exploded from where their hands joined, washing over everyone present. When it faded, the bond was complete. Jiho could feel Queen Varys in his mind. A steady presence, warm and powerful, and he knew she could feel him too, his determination, his care, his absolute certainty that this was right. "It is done," the priest announced. Queen Varys of the Andali Empire and consort Jiho of Earth are bonded. The chamber erupted in applause, though Jiho noticed some beings remained silent, their expressions dark. But he had no time to worry about them. The queen pulled him close and kissed him, and the galaxy watching through broadcasts saw their ruler show vulnerability and joy for the first time in living memory. The celebration that followed was held in the Grand Hall. Hundreds of dignitaries offered congratulations, some genuine, others clearly forced. Jiho smiled and nodded through it all, feeling the queen's amusement through their bond. She found the political theater exhausting too, he realized. They were halfway through the dinner when everything went wrong. General Kyung, one of the Andali military commanders, stood abruptly. With him rose 30 other Andali warriors, all armed, all moving with deadly purpose. "This bonding is a disgrace," Kyung announced, his voice carrying through the suddenly silent hall. "Our queen has betrayed the Andali people by binding herself to a weak, short-lived human. We cannot allow this insult to stand." "Kyung, stand down," Queen Varys commanded, her voice sharp with authority. "No," Kyung said. "We challenge this bond. By ancient law, if the consort is killed before the first moon rises, the bond is broken, and the queen may choose again." Jiho felt the queen's rage through their bond, hot and terrible. But he also felt her fear not for herself, but for him. The rebels were moving fast, separating him from her, surrounding him with weapons drawn. But they had not counted on two things. First, they had not realized that the bond worked both ways. Jiho could feel the queen's power flowing into him, strengthening him, giving him reflexes and speed he never had before. And the queen could feel his strategic thinking, his ability to adapt and improvise under pressure. Second, they had not understood what made humans dangerous. When the first attacker came at Jiho with a blade, he moved without thinking. The queen's power enhanced his speed, but it was his human combat training that let him use it effectively. He caught the attacker's wrist, redirected the strike, and used the Andali's own momentum to throw him into two others. Protect the consort. Lady Nari's voice rang out. Loyal Andali warriors moved to help. But Kyung's rebels were already in position. Across the hall, Queen Varys fought her way toward Jiho, her power devastating but hampered by the need to avoid killing her own people. Kyung himself moved to intercept her, forcing her into a duel. Jiho fought like he never had before. The bond with the queen gave him strength, but it was his own determination, his human stubbornness, that kept him going. He grabbed a dropped weapon, blocked strikes, dodged when he could not block, and attacked when openings appeared. One attacker got through his defense, blade cutting deep into his shoulder. Pain exploded through him, and he felt the queen's answering rage through their bond. But Jiho did not fall. He had survived worse. He shifted his grip on his weapon and struck back, disarming the attacker. "Why will you not die?" one of the rebels shouted in frustration. Jiho grinned through the pain. "Because I am human. We do not know how to give up." The fight lasted less than 5 minutes, but it felt like hours. When Queen Varys finally broke free from Kyung and reached Jiho's side, her power erupted like a star going nova. The remaining rebels fell, unconscious but alive. The queen would not kill her own people, even in rebellion. She pulled Jiho close, examining his wound with shaking hands. "You are hurt." "I am alive," Jiho corrected. "We are alive." Kyung, pinned under Lady Nari's blade, spat blood and laughed bitterly. "You prove my point, human. You are fragile. You will die long before she does. This bond is temporary at best." "You are wrong," Queen Varys said coldly. She helped Jiho to his feet, supporting him. "The bond gave him some of my strength, my longevity. He will live far longer than any human before him. But more importantly, he taught me something you never understood, Kyung. Power means nothing without someone to share it with. Strength means nothing if it only creates loneliness." She looked at the assembled crowd, making sure everyone heard her next words. "Today marks a new era for the Andali Empire. We will no longer measure worth by power alone, but by the courage to face impossible odds. By the strength to adapt and survive. By the wisdom to choose connection over isolation." She raised her voice. "I am creating a new council, and humans will have a permanent seat. Any species that wishes to join our empire will be judged not by their age or their strength, but by their potential and their character." The announcement sent shockwaves through the crowd. Minho, watching from the Earth delegation, looked stunned but pleased. Later, after the wound was healed and the rebels imprisoned, Jiho and Queen Varys stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. The first moon was rising, its light turning everything silver. "The bond is permanent now," the queen said softly. "No one can break it." "Good," Jiho said, taking her hand. "Because I was not planning on leaving anyway." She leaned against him, and through their bond, Jiho felt her contentment, her peace, her joy. "What do we do now?" she asked. "Now?" Jiho smiled. "Now we figure out how to rule a galaxy together. One day at a time." "That sounds exhausting." "It probably will be," Jiho agreed. "But at least neither of us will be lonely anymore." Queen Varys laughed, and the sound was free and happy. "You know, when I called for a suitable mate, and no one moved, I thought my loneliness would never end. Then you stood up, this impossible human who had no business surviving my trials, and everything changed." "I am glad I stood up," Jiho said quietly. "So am I," the queen said. She turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Thank you, Jiho, for your courage, for your stubbornness, for refusing to let me face eternity alone." "Thank you for giving me a chance," Jiho replied. foreseeing past what humans are supposed to be and seeing what we actually are. They stood there together. Two souls bonded across impossible differences, looking out at a galaxy that was still trying to understand what had happened. But Jiho was not worried. Humans had faced impossible situations before. They had adapted, survived, and thrived. And now, with the most powerful being in the galaxy at his side, he was ready to show everyone exactly what humanity could do. When the Queen called for a suitable mate, no one moved except the human. And in doing so, he did not just change his own fate, but the fate of every human who would come after. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.